Foundations of technology. This is the computer and internet communication section. I just wanted to go along when we're doing this project over teens and texting and driving. We got to understand all the stuff that we want to do. We're going to be using computers and the internet to do research, and I want you to know kind of what it's about. So this is kind of what this PowerPoint video slide will be about, because I really do want you to know about it, about how it works. So let's think about this. There's a couple big parts of the computer itself. The hardware is anything you can physically touch. So think about the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse. If you have a PC, you have the control box itself that has all the memory chips and the motherboard, and etc. inside of that. Then we have output devices, which is your printers, your scanners, and all kinds of different things we can put. Anything, though, we can physically touch is the hardware. Now, there are four more main parts of the hardware. The CPU, that is, if you look up here, this icon right here, this picture is the CPU. It's the processor. It does the work. So when you go into ordering a computer, make sure you have, at the time, and it's going to change every single year, the best processor you can get, just because it does pay for keeping update with your CPU. There is the memory. There's two types of the memory. So our second main unit is memory. The RAM, which is located right here, if you look, you can go to Walmart and actually look at RAM itself. It just looks like a little chip of little memory chip boards, and these are called microprocessors, but they're little mini computers basically on this little green board. This is your temporary memory. When you shut the computer off, it does no longer work. It just sits there and waits for you to turn the computer on. When the computer's on, it will do all the processing for you, all the math calculations. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how the computer functions and how it calculates a lot of information. Then you have your read-only memory. This is it's called ROM. It's just permanent memory. It cannot be changed by the computer. The only thing you can do is you can wipe it out, but for the most part, when you turn the computer off, it's still there. This is your hard drives. Right here, this little photo right here with the orange, this is a hard drive inside of your computer. Okay, so it's inside the computer. You hit save, it saves to this little storage device, and it does not get wiped out unless you hit delete. Okay, there is another type of memory which it's getting more useful, is the external hard drive. That's what this little icon here is. And we now have what we call these little flash drives, and we've seen these around for quite some time. But these are another part of memory that we can put information on, and it is a type of ROM. Okay, it's stored and it doesn't disappear unless you hit delete. We have output devices and input devices. Output is anything, which I have an example here of a printer. Okay, anything that is putting information from the computer itself to you is called output. Anything going into the computer, which right here we have a keyboard and mouse, is what we call input device. Okay, another big part of computers is the software, also known as programs. The software controls how the hardware is used. Okay, the hardware does nothing unless it has some software telling it what to do. Okay, and we call them programs. You can probably think of Microsoft Word, PowerPoint. We're going to be using some of the Adobe products, which is Photoshop and InDesign, so Illustrator possibly. But those are some software components of the computer. And I put Illustrator here. I actually should have put InDesign, because we were going to be using InDesign as software more than Illustrator. But some of the hardware and software you're going to use for your project for this teens texting and driving is a camera. We are going to use a camera, an iPad, or a video recorder, depends on what we have available at the time. And the printers, the big wide format printer, these are all hardware because we can touch them. Things we cannot touch of the software, we're going to be using a lot of Photoshop. We're going to be using InDesign to publish our magazine article. We're also going to be using, again, some input devices. For example, I told you we're going to be using a camera. So if we take a camera, we're going to be using the USB connections to our cameras, our photography cameras, USB connections to the computer. So that's a way to input data as well. So that we'll need to understand the input and output process of the computer. Now I want to show you and talk to you a little bit about binary code. This is very cool. The computer language is called binary code. The computer can only understand a series of ones and zeros. 1 meaning on, 0 meaning off. Go look around your just anything that you have that has an on and off button. And I don't know if I can zoom in on this or not. Probably not. But if you go look at your vacuum, your trying to think of everything, but vacuum has it. Your switches, some of your switches on your televisions, they all have this little circle with a 1 in it. That means the 0 and the again, the 0 is off, the 1 is on. Some of them are toggle switches, which will have the 1 on the on side and the 0 on the off side. So start looking around, you'll probably find a bunch of those. So it's symbolism. It uses the same language as the binary code for the computer. Now, one of those, a 1 or a 0, is called a bit. If we put 8 of those together, we get 1 byte. So it's very useful because you've probably heard of megabyte, bytes, kilobytes, gigabytes, all these things. That's what that means. Mega means million. So if you hear of megabyte, that means there are 8 bits to make up 1. So we need 8 times a million. So you got 8 million bits in that megabyte. So I'm going to kind of throw this around a little bit, and so you can kind of see where we're going with it. 5 megabytes, that's what this photo is. This photo is my little daughter when she was a couple months old. Now she is now 5 years old, almost 6. So it's kind of neat. But this photo is 5 megabytes. That goes down to 5.242 million bytes. Okay, take that times 8, and you're getting 41 million, 41,943,040 bits. That means that's of zeros and ones. Almost 42 million zeros and ones to make up that photo. Yeah, it's quite a bit. Now let's think of a gigabyte, because you hear, hey, I've got me a storage device. This one is 16 gigabytes. Some of you have 1. Now, if I had 16, I had to take that 8,589,934,592 times 16 to get how much zeros and ones can be stored on this device. That's a lot of information. Now I want to take that and put it into a computer's perspective, and I want to teach you a little bit of binary code. The simplest form of binary code is like this. We start with a 1. We go from right to left instead of how we read. We usually read from left to right. We're going to go 1 times it by 2, times the 2 by 2, times the 4 by 2, and we keep going, times everything by 2. This is because it is a binary system. Okay, it's in a power of 2. Not a power of 10 like we're used to, where we count to 10 and it starts over. This one you count to 2 and it starts over. So if you notice, there's 8 of these. That is this 8 bytes. That's where that, or 8 bits to a byte. That's where this comes from. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for 1 second. We're going to have a part 1 and a part 2 of this video. I'm about out of time. So I will stop this video and we'll pick up on part 2.